but these were like man's men with like Bowie knives with like a 12-inch blade, y'all. All right? Yeah. And they just stinking Kit Carson, you know, walked on foot for hundreds to thousands of miles by themselves across deserts, under peril, and just did it with character and integrity, reporting for duty, sir, kind of stuff. And we can't even fathom just the integrity.
So tonight we're going to be talking about Pioneer foods, just those basic staple foods. We thought it would be really fun to have this discussion with y'all and see what kind of feedback you would give us to with this. So we were just thinking about those pioneers. We watch a lot of documentaries and different things on YouTube with the kids, and we were watching some old documentaries about the pioneers and what they took out west with them as they were establishing their homesteads and setting up. And we just thought, wow, what a great shock to our system that would be, as us spoiled Americans, to look back at those pioneer days and just those simple foods that they were able to put on a wagon and take with them. And that would be like a good kickoff point for us to really focus in on those foods when we're setting up our pantries. So here we go. We have a list. We're going to share them with you, and we're just going to talk and share as we go here. So go ahead. What's the first one?
Well, the first one I think is very obvious, is potatoes, because of storability and growability. You know, your actual food can be your seeds to plant the following season, and they're relatively stable if you can keep them cool enough or covered. So
yes,
potatoes was like the number one. And if you've ever studied Irish history, you know, the Irish potato famine, and an entire country basically survived on potatoes. So it's possible, and you get minerals and all that good stuff. And I actually like potatoes. So that's always a plus.
Everybody likes potatoes. Who doesn't like potatoes, right? I mean, and they're so diverse. You can do, you can dice them up. You can have them for breakfast. You could have them like in an omelet for lunch. You could do mashed potatoes.
I'm convinced it's because of the minerals. Like, I don't know, sometimes I just crave potatoes. And
so good for you.
I'm definitely not a kind of guy that craves starch. So I just think it's the mineral content.
And it is a good and healthy starch. And it is one of those vegetables. It is, I think, maybe.
Did you know the potatoes had nightshade?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is the only vegetable that you can absolutely be sustained on and be totally fine to live on for an extended period of time are potatoes. So,
well, like I said, yeah, you know, the whole entire country of Ireland was sustained. You know, it really makes me think of the longhorn cow when it comes to the state of Texas. But, you know, the potato then, if it's a sweet potato, the leafy greens from the sweet potatoes are great for in your salad and whatnot like that.
And we grow potatoes here every year. We try to do red potatoes, yellow potatoes, any type of potatoes. Obviously, we do a few different varieties of sweet potatoes. They're highly sustainable. They're very transportable, like you said, and it takes nothing, basically very, very little effort to preserve them and keep them. As long as you have a cool, dark place, you can keep them and put them back in the ground and they'll grow. We have potatoes that we harvested just this past week, and the ones that we missed are already, we're starting to grow back in the soil again and come back up. So that is super cool. Okay.
Yeah, and any kind of tubers for that matter. I mean, there's Jerusalem artichokes, you know, anything of that fashion. I've been wanting to get into the whole Jerusalem artichoke thing. I don't think we've ever, I think we tried to do that one time. But, so we got potatoes. You got, obviously, the go-to beans and rice.
Beans and rice, guys. I mean, where would we be without beans and rice? And again, it's something that... beans, I mean, it is a living, viable plant, and you can dry them out and you can cook with them. They're so diverse, high in protein, super high in protein, and there's so many different types of beans.
Yeah, you can sprout them, and you can, you know, there's a lot of different options with beans.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different kinds of beans.
And beans grow.
Super shelf stable, yeah.
It's growing like a bean. You heard the term, right? It's growing like a bean. They grow in the poorest soils. They improve your soils.
Yeah, most time nitrogen fixture.
Yeah, so they're just, pick out your favorite kinds of beans and go with it. And if you're in an area that there's certain ones that do better in your area, I would absolutely recommend getting those types and learning how to grow them. So we have different ones down here that we're growing that are specific to our region that grow really, really well. And then we're also playing with some other different types that are just a bulk staple bean.
Well, and the viability on the rice and beans is so when we relocated, we brought our food storage with us. Mm-hmm. And because of, job income status, we basically lived on our food storage our first year. Mm-hmm. We survived with a very minimal income. Mm-hmm. And we lived on rice and beans, and we survived and we thrived.
Absolutely.
And we went to the next level on rice and beans, mm-hmm. and it was stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers mm-hmm. in orange Home Depot buckets. So
yes.
It worked.
It works. It totally works.
We're living proof.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful we don't have to eat rice and beans every day now.
I think that's why sometimes you get a little burnout with the rice and beans, because I literally had like a little notebook and I was coming up with different recipes for rice and beans.
Rice and beans and rice.
It was like so many different things to try to be creative with it. So canners are going. If you're hearing hissing and spitting.
Hopefully you don't, because we have epic audio action going on that we actually turned on and synced to the camera this time.
But if you hear something a little funny or fuzzy, it's the canners.
Oh yeah, and one is coffee. Coffee is a huge one. That was one that we were watching a thing on the Oregon Trail, and they took rice beans, they took jerky, and they took coffee, and lots of coffee. And I think it's an interesting phenomenon. You hear all this negative stuff on coffee and all this stuff. And then you hear all this different positive stuff and the effects of coffee. Mm-hmm. But we've been culturally drinking coffee
for
an incredibly long time. And it is so incredibly good. And I know there's a rare few people, most of them are women and children that don't like coffee. But coffee is a staple. And there's just something about coffee and cowboys and
cowboy coffee. There's even cowboy coffee.
Texas and ranching mm-hmm. and riding horses
and
how they campfire coffee.
Do you know how they did the cowboy coffee? Is that you have your pot and you put your boiling water in it. Well, you boil water in your pot. You have your coffee grounds in there in the water. And then you let it cool down, and the coffee grounds go to the bottom.
Yeah, you just pour it off the top.
And you just pour it off the top. So they did not have
chewy
coffee makers. Well, maybe they had a little strainer they poured it through or something.
That's why you have mustache. You strain it as you drink.
I think coffee is excellent. I think that's an excellent choice to prep. Okay, so what's the next thing that we got for Pioneer Food?
Bacon.
Oh no, we sold our pigs.
Thanks. Bacon is epic.
Okay, I'm buying Coonies tomorrow.
We did just buy a table saw butchering grinder, super awesome.
We did.
Butcher station.
We did. So
that could inspire me to buy some more Coonies.
I miss our Coonies horribly. And so bacon is going to lead right into one of their main staples that they also brought with them, which is lard.
Lard, yeah.
So lard is shelf stable. You can, after you have your bacon or you render down ham or anything like that, you can go ahead and keep your lard. You can keep it right on the countertop.
Season your cast iron.
You can season your cast iron with it.
Make soap out of it.
You can make soap out of it. So it's the ultimate homestead prep is lard, and then you can bake with it. There's just so many different uses for it on a homestead. So that's an excellent one. So bacon was like, just the cream on the top. I mean,
it's a comfort food. And then it has all these residual secondary benefits.
And I'm sure they were probably like smoking their hams and preserving
that's
their
the other
meats.
thing about bacon, it's shelf stable.
Right.
You know, obviously homemade bread.
Okay, so yeah, I can imagine that, making bread and cast iron on
pies.
Well, that would probably go
beans and
into
the rice.
like, they probably had a lot of dried fruit and berries and things like that they would probably forage or bring with them.
Yep.
And then be able to make up a pie would be probably an easier feat. So I'm sure they had flour then and salt and maybe a baking powder or something like that would probably play into it.
Yep, cornmeal pancakes, they had cornmeal. Biscuits, obviously.
They could make
cornmeal mush, you know, they're just trying to mix it up.
Yeah, so they could make different things.
Soup, so when you have a bunch of leftovers, you throw it in soup.
Yeah.
Hardtack.
Yeah, and our friends at Heartway Farms, their oldest daughter actually has a video that she did making hardtack, which is really cool. Yeah, so you can go back and find that. If we know about it, we'll go ahead, if we can find it, we'll go ahead and link that for you. And you can check out her, Julianne's hardtack video.
And then, you know, first dried meats, then obviously fresh game, because they hunted on the trail, salmon if they were near water.
Fishing. And you know, I think that is something that we totally overlook too, is that if you are in a rural environment where you can gain skills in hunting, trapping, fishing, I mean, I would say that is probably a great skill set to have. And you know, in a pinch, you don't want to eat certain things, but
oh man,
if you're hungry, you'll eat the things that are crawling around in the woods.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, all you got to do is study a little bit of history, and you look at these different, you know, Poland, and in these different communist countries when communist regimes took over, and they just literally decimated the countryside and ate all the deer, all the squirrels, all the...
And I know, like, from my grandparents, just stories from my side of the family that, like, I mean, they fished. They fished and they ate their fish. Like, that was, like, the boys would go fishing.
Did they have a fishing license?
No, the little boys would go up the street and go down, you know, to the creek, and they would fish. And then if they brought home some fish or some crabs or different things, then they would cook them up, and that would just be dinner that night. And, you know, there's just so much to be said for that stuff. And then they ate a lot of things that we would really probably snuff our noses up at this, you know, day and age. But like muskrat and snapper turtles and, you know, like my dad grew up on snapper turtle soup and muskrat. Nice. And it was like, that was what was available, and it's what they had, and they cooked it and they ate it, you know. So in the summertime, they trapped a lot of crabs and ate crabs.
Well, the reality is, you know, if you study the men of the frontier, much like the founding fathers who were polymaths and polyglots and all that other stuff, these are fascinating men, guys like Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, Sam Bowie, Sam Houston. You read about these men, and they're literally almost mythology, you know, and men of such tremendous fortitude and character and ethic and work ethic and drive and pure embodied testosterone. I don't want to hurt anybody, all right? I don't want to melt anybody, but these were like man's men. With like Bowie knives with like a 12-inch blade, y'all. All right? Yeah. And they just stinking Kit Carson, you know, walked on foot for hundreds to thousands of miles by themselves across deserts under peril, and just did it. With character and integrity, reporting for duty, sir, kind of stuff. And we can't even fathom just the integrity And I realized that maybe, I mean, it is historic fact, but maybe some of it has been slightly exaggerated, maybe. But if a tenth of it is true, you know, you think about our modern day culture and society, and our heroes, for lack of a better word, are some sports dude that's some ne'er-do-well from wherever, you know, that beats his girlfriend or has, you know, a bunch of illegitimate kids or whatever, or, you know, is a drug dealer or a gangbanger or whatever.
Not necessarily role models.
Right. Or it's Bill Gates, you know, and he's a billionaire and he's doing so much good for the world, old Bill.
My.
Or, you know, or Dr. Evil, you know, Jeff Bezos, you know, and they all have their government connections and all that stuff. But, you know, that's the didactic. That's our modern culture. And you know, and I'm not even speaking from a Christian perspective. I'm just speaking from a general population perspective,
Sure.
right?
Sure. We used to have gritty men
We used to have
gritty women.
Yeah, gritty men and gritty women
Yeah.
that did things with integrity and fortitude and just did it because it was the right thing and did it. And
my grandmom used to say they didn't even think about it. They just worked all the time and they didn't even think about it. It was what everybody did. Life.
You didn't play video games.
Just life was work. And they would stay up until
Stayed up until you were done.
Yeah, until you were done.
You know, you got up and started working and you finished.
And then get up and do it all again. And yeah. So,
and you just read about these men, you know, the Davy Crockett's and the Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone, 8 children, I think, doing all that crazy stuff.
He had 8 children. He didn't eat children.
No, 8 children.
It said Daniel.
And like I said, 8 children.
Daniel Boone, 8 children.
Well, that was my southern drawl. He had 8 kids, y'all.
He had 8 children.
He had 8 children.
Daniel Boone, 8 children.
By Daniel Boone, 8 children. Oh dear, that don't sound so good.
That wasn't good.
Especially with this quality audio we got going on here.
Oh
Daniel Bildren had 8 children. Okay, yeah, it's late. I'm going to bed. All right, but you know, Kit Carson, who are the Lewis and Clark. I mean,
so that's
read
why
about
it's
these guys.
important, right? To like educate your children about these people.
Please educate your children.
If they are just in the modern age and in what's right in front of them or what's being shoved down all of our throats of this new revised history,
postmodern, post-truth history.
Postmodern, post-truth, all sugared down, watered down.
Watered down. I wish it was watered down.
And I won't say, I could say some words. But anyway, it's important to teach your children history, real history. Let their heroes be Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett and all of these great men of the past.
That was my point. Like, you know, there are great, obviously, heroes of the Christian faith, great men of faith, you know, whether it's American history or Spurgeon or George Whitefield or you think of the Great Awakening, Jonathan Edwards, and you think of these men. But I'm not even talking about from a Christian perspective. I'm talking about from a human male perspective that both Christian and non-Christian people can look to and appreciate and look at the virtue in that person and look at the positive values in that person, whether it's integrity or just they're somebody that's a man of their word. They do what they say they're going to do because it's the right thing, right? Whatever any of that means anymore.
And the same goes, I think, for women. I mean, what role models do young girls growing up today have to look at? I mean, everything is so superficial.
Right, and those men were who they were because of their moms. They were just as much who they were because of their moms as just as much as their dad. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's how those men became those men. They had their fathers obviously as role models, but the mothers were as just a great quintessential part of who they were.
Sure.
As their dads were.
They were out getting it done. And I mean, I said before, I think in a previous video, that even when we look at like the American Indians and the different tribes, we've been studying the different tribes, and the role that the women had in those families. And I mean, there wasn't any time for superficial things.
No time for video games, y'all.
And it's the same with the pioneer women. They were out getting it done. I mean, from sunup till sundown and probably beyond, was just taking care of their family, providing food, gardening, getting just food and keeping clean laundry. And sometimes that's real life, like even in a modern homesteading family life, just educating the kids, keeping the house to some resemblance of cleanliness.
I try to explain to people, you know, oh, it's so hard to grow your own food. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. The reason that people don't do it is because it's hard.
It's hard.
They go and buy trash, right? And even the stuff that's labeled good, right? Mm-hmm. They buy trash, mm-hmm. but it's hard. Yeah, it is hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's, you know, 80% of your money or 80% of your time in a very real way should be going towards your food. Why? Mm-hmm. Because that's the way it used to be. Mm-hmm. Before high fructose corn syrup, that's the way it used to be.
And
before big ag.
So easy. We have hoses, we have water systems,
exactly.
we have drip systems, we have so many modern conveniences. Yeah. We have weed guard.
And it's still hard, y'all. It still takes lots of time.
It's still hard.
But it's nothing like what it used to be.
No, it's nothing at all. I mean,
like what it used to be.
So yeah, we just wanted to encourage y'all.
There's no excuse, you know.
We don't have any excuses. It's time to get gritty, guys, and ladies, and just let's dig in. Let's teach our children real history. Let's teach them about real food.
Search for your inner pioneer. Gird up your loins.
Go watch some pioneer documentaries. Get motivated.
If you're a man, gird up your loins like a man.
Get your pantry full.
Quit you like men, be strong.
And that's it, guys.
And if it was just men on here, I would be even more manly. But since I'm in the presence of a woman, I won't. I digress. All right, y'all. Make it happen. All right. See y'all. Have a good night.
Good night. See you guys.
See you. Bye. The wolves would have came Nugget and would be like, throw Nugget out. No. It's like a wolf decoy.
They said they probably would have skinned her and put her on the wall.
Nugget would have been a wolf Scooby snack. Would you have been a wolf Scooby snack? Daniel Boone would have turned you into a headdress, Nugget, to keep his head warm when he hunted in the wintertime.
He would have kept the little children warm.
You'd been like a Daniel Boone coonskin cap.
At night.
Oh, you're getting vicious. You're a vicious beast now.
She'll snuggle up with the children at night and keep them warm. She'll be like a nanny dog.
You are a nanny dog. You are worthless.